All right, so moving on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my top 5 teams in the National Football League today. So we are 2 weeks into the season. Let's pump the brakes here. We got plenty of time. This is just my top 5 teams to start off the season based off what I've seen in the first 2 weeks of the season. So starting off with number one, I do believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL right now. They did pick up some good key wins to start off the season. They defeated the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson and company in the opener night. Even though the Ravens are 0-2, when the season goes on and the Ravens do turn things around, that's going to be a good win to look back at for the Kansas City Chiefs. Same could be said about the opponent that just beat in the Cincinnati Bengals last weekend when they were outplayed by the Bengals. Still were good enough to win the ball game, had a game-winning drive against the Bengals. So beating Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow back-to-back weeks, I think that speaks volumes, and that's going to be good on your resume as the season goes on. So they're number one. Number two is the New Orleans Saints. They've been explosive, and they've been great on both sides of the ball to start off the season. The Saints have scored a total of 91 points to start off the season in the first 2 games and scored on their first 15 drives offensively to start off the season. Derek Carr has played well. The offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, he's been play calling has been very well. Alvin Kamara has played very well in the backfield, being a good pass catcher and a runner in the backfield. Honestly, this veteran team, I wrote them off to start the beginning of the season. But after what I saw when they beat my Dallas Cowboys 44-19, I gotta say they are in line to be a contending team. Seriously, if they could keep this momentum up in the NFC or could possibly win the NFC South. So I have to say they are the second best team in the National Football League right now. And number three, I have the Buffalo Bills. I do believe that the Buffalo Bills are the third best team in football right now. They had an impressive Week 1 victory against the Arizona Cardinals at home in a competitive game. They pulled it out and won that game. And then they just held this Miami Dolphins team to a total of 10 points in their victory last Thursday. And that's a hard task to do when you have an offense of Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and etc. And they forced, before the concussion injury, fortunately to Tua, hopefully things go well for him in the future, but they did force him to throw a total of 3 interceptions in that ball game. So defense played very well, holding that Dolphins team to a total of 10 points. I think they're off to a good start being 2-0. They're number 3 on my list. Now, number 4 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have looked really good so far. Baker Mayfield has looked great so far. They got the revenge against the Detroit Lions in a divisional round. That's the team that made them pack their bags and go back to Tampa and watch the rest of the playoffs on the couch like several other teams. But they got the revenge last Sunday in the place that they lost at Ford Field. So I know that felt good for that Bucs team to send a message to that Lions team that, hey, we might see you guys again, and we believe that we're the better team. Let's send a message right now. So number 4 on my list is the Bucs. Number 5 is the Houston Texans. Now, really impressive in their in Week 1 when they were on the road against that Indianapolis Colts team. Where I like the battle that I saw between Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud to start off the season. But then on Sunday Night Football, when the Texans took on the Bears, it was a competitive game. Yes, the Texans did defeat the Bears 19-13. And when you watch the game, it really shouldn't have been that close because that's how dominant the Texans defense was. They held first overall pick from this draft class, Caleb Williams, to under 200 yards passing. They forced him to throw 2 interceptions, and they sacked him a total of 7 times, getting home to him in the pass rushing for the pass rush department. So I think if they just cleaned up things offensively, they should have blew out the Bears. But what all these teams have in common, they are undefeated right now at 2-0. There's plenty of teams that do deserve an honorable mention, but I won't do that this week. But I just feel like based off what the Chiefs out of these 5 teams have the best resume, beating Lamar Jackson and the Cincinnati Bengals back-to-back weeks is not easy to do in the National Football League. Then I'm looking at the Saints. They did play the Panthers in the first game. They won that game at home, but then steamrolling the Dallas Cowboys, who, whether you like them or not, the Cowboys are going to be contenders year in and year out with that roster. Let's just call a spade, call it what it is. It just comes down to what they do in the playoffs. But going on the road to beat the Dallas Cowboys the way that they did, coming in with a mentality, we're gonna bust you in the mouth, and there's nothing you could do about it. Putting up 44 points on them and a total of 91 points in total for the first 2 weeks of the season. That's very impressive. Then, of course, the Bills beating the Cardinals and the Dolphins in the last 2 weeks. That's pretty good. The Bucks, even though they did beat the Commanders week 1, going on the road to beat this Lions team, that's not easy to do. So I give them the credit for being at 4-5. Texans, I think they just got to sharpen up a little bit offensively, and things. It's their world because their roster is stacked from top to bottom. But yeah, I do believe that these 5 teams are deserving to be in my top 5 power rankings this week after week 2. Those are my top 5 teams in the National Football League right now.